Journalist Chris Chandler is trying to interview police officers who have surrounded a house where a criminal has taken refuge. Of course, the officers have no time for this now, so they shoo away the journalist. But Chris isn't giving up so easily. Suddenly the criminal escapes, ramming Chris's car in the process. The officers organize a pursuit. Understandably, Chris is very upset. Suddenly a stranger approaches him and hands over keys to his luxurious car, telling Chris that it's a gift. In return, the man only wants Chris's business card. The guy is perplexed by such generosity from the stranger, but in the end he takes the keys. Before leaving, the man says that they will meet again. Next, the events take us back 4 months. A boy named Trevor McKinney is a 7th grade student. When he sees bullies teasing his classmate Adam, Trevor stands up for him. A school year begins. A new social studies teacher, Eugene Simonet, with multiple scars on his face, joined the school. The teacher asks the students what in their opinion the world expects from each of them. Trevor, overcoming his shyness, answers that they are only 11 years old, so the world expects nothing from them. On the one hand, the boy is right. But on the other hand, it won't always be this way. Someday they will all become adults and may not be ready for freedom. Mr. Simonet gives the students a task for the entire next year. He wants the children to learn to think creatively and globally. Each of them must think about how to change the world and put their idea into action. On his way home, Trevor thought about the teacher's assignment. At some point, he saw homeless people living and eating on the street. Trevor's mother, Arlene, works as a waitress in a nightclub while her son is at home. Arlene called him and said that she would be late from work because she had an extra shift. Trevor was used to this, so he didn't say anything. His mother had no idea he'd brought home a vagrant to feed. After her shift, Arlene came home. Making sure the son was asleep, she took a hidden bottle of alcohol in the garage and began to drink. This helps her cope with stress. Arlene does not know that the homeless man is sleeping in her truck. Early in the morning, Trevor saw her sleeping in the room and poured the remaining alcohol into the sink. The mother's destructive habit really upsets him. Arlene didn't wake up until the afternoon and started cooking. She doesn't like the son's remarks about her constant drinking. This often leads to conflicts between them. Seeing the homeless man, Arlene got scared and drove him away, ignoring her son's words that this was his friend. The boy said that he was just doing the teacher's assignment. After this incident, Arlene visited the school and demanded explanations from Eugene. The teacher assured that he hadn't encouraged Trevor to bring a vagrant into the house. The task was to come up with a way to change the world. However, this did not reduce Arlene's dissatisfaction, who was forced to leave because she was late for her second job. In the present, Chris Chandler found the same man. His name is Mr. Thorson. He is a successful lawyer. Chris just wants to know what goals Thorson was pursuing by practicing altruism. The man told his story. His daughter suffers from asthma, and one night she had a severe attack. The father brought his daughter to the emergency department, but the doctor ignored them, intending to tend to an injured guy first. When he saw the girl feeling ill, the guy, using threats, forced the doctor to help her first. Later, he told Mr. Thorson that in return for this kindness, he must help 3 strangers, and this chain must continue indefinitely. This also means that now, Chris must assist any 3 strangers. In the morning, Arlene woke up to strange sounds. Rushing to the garage, she found the door open, and the very same vagrant was here. Arlene, who had a gun in her hands, suspected the guy of theft, but it turned out that he just wanted to fix the car. Jerry explained that Trevor had given him some of his savings, which allowed him to get a job. Thanks to Trevor, the guy gave up his vagrant lifestyle and harmful habits. Arlene, it seems, developed an understanding for Jerry, since her mother also lives on the streets. Now this guy has a second chance, and he has to pay forward for the kindness he received. Trevor's idea is that everyone should help 3 strangers, each of whom in turn should do the same. This chain will continue and grow. The classmates found this idea interesting, though in the teacher's opinion it's too utopian. In the meantime, Jerry had finished his story. Now Arlene understands why the guy decided to fix her car. It's part of the chain of kindness. The other 7th grade students also came forward with their ideas for improving the world, but it all seemed absurd. Eugene was most interested in what Trevor had proposed. He was the only one who actually tried to implement his idea. After the lesson, the boy approached the teacher and, unable to contain his curiosity, asked about his scars. However, Eugene avoided answering, stating it had nothing to do with social science. Later, Trevor came to the dormitory where Jerry lived to see if he was okay. Trevor had no idea that the guy had returned to his old immoral lifestyle. In the end, the boy left in upset feelings. Perhaps not all people deserve kindness from others because to change your life, you must genuinely want it. Trevor crossed Jerry off his list and decided he would instead help Mr. Simonet. The next day he found him in the school canteen and handed him a note allegedly from his mother. In the evening, Eugene came to the McKinney family home. This time Arlene behaved amicably, although the woman insisted she had not written any notes. Eugene and Arlene realized that Trevor had set it up on purpose. Moreover, the boy had set the table. Arlene was confused and invited the guest to dine with her. They had a heart-to-heart talk. Arlene said she works a lot and rarely spends time with her son. This often leads to conflicts. Eugene suspected that the woman was withholding something from him. He was sure it's somehow related to Trevor's father. Their conversation was interrupted by Bonnie, Arlene's friend, who came unannounced. She thought Arlene had been drinking again and wanted to join in. In the evening, Arlene went to her son's room and told him he was wrong to deceive Eugene into coming here. However, the boy was sure he had done a good deed. He wanted his mother to find a worthy man, unlike his father who constantly drank. In the end, this conversation also ended in a conflict between the mother and son. Trevor told his mother he was sorry they were a family. Arlene was so upset that she found her stash of alcohol. It's the only thing that helps her cope with her problems. Later, she knocked on the son's door to apologize, but Trevor had disappeared. She immediately called Eugene and asked for his help. They went together to search for Trevor. The woman admitted to having a drinking problem. Meanwhile, the boy, having taken his remaining savings, was at the station. He wanted to run away, but Eugene and the mother stopped him in time. The boy did not want to talk to his mother, but she assured him that this would never happen again. Also, Arlene told her son that she can't cope with it without his help, as he is the only one she has. Trevor hugged his mother. Eugene watched this touching scene. Later, Arlene thanked him for his help and asked how he knew Trevor would be at the train station. Eugene didn't know how to answer this question. Sidney Parker, the same guy who saved the lawyer's daughter, ended up in jail for threatening medical staff. Chris Chandler managed to arrange a meeting with him to take an interview. Sidney also told him about the chain of kindness. In his opinion, it's what will change the world. Chris is determined to find out who the original source is. In the morning, Eugene paid special attention to his appearance, as he planned to meet with Arlene. He came to her work at a gaming cafe. The woman didn't expect to see him here. Eugene lied that he didn't know she worked here. However, Arlene guessed that he was lying. Eugene plucked up the courage and asked her on a date. Chris met with the governor's assistant to get parole for Sidney. The deputy governor is an old acquaintance of the journalist. Chris remembers his obligation to do good to 3 different people. Arlene is very nervous about her date with Eugene. He is waiting for her in the restaurant, and she is running extremely late due to being held up at work. The son wished her luck. He is genuinely happy that his mother is going on a date with Mr. Simonet. Eugene was about to leave when Arlene suddenly rushed out of the taxi. Meanwhile, Chris met with Sidney again, who shared his story. Once he was running away from the police with stolen goods. At some point, an elderly woman noticed him and offered him a ride. She's the reason Sidney didn't get caught. He asked her what she wanted in return for her help. Then the woman, who looked like a homeless person, told him about the chain of kindness. Anyone who receives uncompensated kindness should pay it forward. Trevor believes that Eugene is the perfect man for his mother, but she is full of doubts, as she has already had a sad experience. Nevertheless, she continues to see Eugene every day. One day when he was walking her home, Arlene suggested that he stay. But Eugene didn't want to rush things. His scars make him feel incomplete. However, for Arlene, appearance doesn't matter at all. They kissed for the first time, but at the last moment Eugene chickened out and left. Chris is packing his bags, getting ready to go to Las Vegas. He's going to find the old lady Sidney talked about to figure out who initiated the chain of kindness. Chris also plans to write an article about it. One day Eugene heard a knock at the door. It was Arlene, who came to sort out their relationship. She assured him that his scars didn't bother her at all. This was new to Eugene, as he was used to people judging only by appearance. But that's not the whole problem. The fact is, Eugene is afraid to change anything in his settled life. This routine is all he has. Realizing that he's a coward, Arlene left. The hooligans were chasing Adam, who suffers from asthma. Trevor, who was riding by on his bicycle, saw this but was too afraid to intervene. Thus his chain of kindness didn't progress. One day Eugene approached Trevor and asked why he had been skipping school for 4 days. The boy was deeply upset that Mr. Simonet wasn't calling his mom and that his pay-it-forward scheme didn't work. Eugene said that not everything is in our hands, but it's necessary to help people to the best of our ability. Trevor asked the teacher why he didn't want to help his mom in that case. The situation could worsen now because Trevor's father has returned. The boy realized that his attempt to change the world for the better had failed, and he left. That same evening, Eugene came to their house. Arlene was glad to see him. They spent that night together. In the morning, Trevor noticed they had a guest at home. The boy told his mother and teacher that now they must pay it forward. Eugene was very embarrassed, so he hurried away. Jerry returned to vagabond lifestyle, but one day he saw a woman on a bridge. She was in despair and about to end her suffering. Jerry wanted to prevent her from making a rash act, because he had to pay it forward. The woman was crying, believing her life was worthless. Jerry convinced her not to do it. Perhaps they could save each other. Eugene practically became a member of the McKinney family. Trevor is very happy for his mother, who has found a decent man. But this idyll was interrupted by the appearance of Ricky, Trevor's father. Eugene realized he wasn't welcome here. Trevor watched through the window as he's leaving. Meanwhile, Ricky assured Arlene that he had changed and stopped drinking. Now Ricky hopes that they can start life from scratch and become a full family. Eugene returned to his normal life. Soon Arlene came to him and asked for forgiveness. She wants to give her ex-husband a second chance, believing he has changed. Eugene refused to understand this, thinking that Arlene doesn't care about herself or her son. For the first time, Eugene told his story. His father was also an alcoholic. Like Ricky, he could be cruel. At one point, Eugene couldn't stand it and ran away from home, but then returned because he missed his mother. His father was furious. He was the reason Eugene got these scars that remained from the burns. Telling this, Eugene couldn't hold back tears. Now he fears that Trevor will meet the same fate. However, Arlene doesn't want to believe that Ricky could do such a thing. As Chris was driving, Trevor ended up right in the roadway. Without realizing it, Chris had found the originator of the pay-it-forward scheme. Ricky didn't keep his promise and returned to old habits. In addition, he's not looking for a job. To avoid hearing his parents' arguments, Trevor played loud music. Arlene kicked Ricky out and apologized to her son, saying she made a mistake. But now she will leave the past behind. Chris tries to find the elderly lady that Sydney talked about, while Trevor stayed in Eugene's class after the lesson and asked to give his mother another chance. Eugene said he couldn't do that. There are things in this world that Trevor doesn't understand because of his age. With tears in his eyes, the boy said that one should do good, even if it is too difficult. Only this way can the world change for the better. And if Eugene really loves Arlene, he will forgive her. However, Eugene made it clear that he was not ready for this. Travis once again was convinced that his chain of goodness wasn't working and left. Meanwhile, Chris came to a neighborhood where the homeless live. It was here he found the very elderly lady who agreed to tell him her story. It turned out that this woman was Arlene's mother. They hadn't communicated for 3 years, but the daughter wanted to make things right and convinced her mother to end her immoral lifestyle. Arlene had a tough childhood, but she found the strength to forgive her mother. The woman broke down in tears. It was important for her to hear this. Arlene wants to occasionally see her mother, but not live with her. Provided that her mother remains sober, Arlene will allow her to see the grandson. Before her daughter left, the woman asked why she had come here. That's when Arlene told her about Pay It Forward. That's why the woman helped Sydney. Trevor's birthday came. He turned 12 years old. His grandmother was also present. There was a knock on the door. It was Chris, who introduced himself as a journalist and said that the Pay It Forward movement had reached Los Angeles. Of course, Arlene was surprised. Chris was preparing to interview Trevor at school. That's where Arlene and Eugene met for the first time after that difficult conversation. Trevor was being interviewed on camera while his classmates were watching through the door gap. Trevor said that he is truly proud of his mother, thanks to whom the chain of kindness has spread far beyond their city. According to the boy, anyone can change the world and their life, but you need to have enough courage to do so. Inspired by Trevor's speech, Eugene later approached Arlene and said he didn't want to waste his life. Eugene loves Arlene, and the feeling is mutual. Meanwhile, Trevor once again noticed how the bullies were teasing at him. This time Trevor didn't hesitate to stand up for him. Eugene and Arlene saw this and rushed over, but there was nothing they could do. Trevor was injured. The bullies immediately ran away. Trevor was urgently taken to the hospital, but the doctors couldn't do anything. Upon hearing this, Arlene almost fainted. A few hours later, the news reported about Trevor, who started the chain of goodness that had spread to many cities. Eugene stayed with Arlene to help her get through the grief. Thanks to Trevor, they realized what truly matters in life. Hundreds of people gathered at Trevor's house to pay tribute to his memory. This tragedy united all these people. Trevor truly made this world a little bit better. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.